Right, yeah, thanks very much.
Are you good? Right.
Okay, excellent. Warren Fisher from Application Management, as it says on the slide.
Not the Warren from this morning.
Different one. So in our business unit, we do primarily two vendors. We do Micro Focus, or the ex-Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. We also do Kofax. But from last year, our journey sort of segued into IoT a bit, and I think there's a lot of, you've seen a lot today. For us, it was really approaching one of our existing customers, Time Digital. They had quite a unique requirement. They're those of you that have been kept abreast from a marketing perspective, they just got their banking license. They're a digital bank, and they've got a sort of an innovation lab, and they developed a kiosk that they've deployed across 600 sites in South Africa. It's a self-service banking kiosk for bank account origination, and they developed this in their lab, which is in Rosebank. And it's got document scanners, it's got biometrics, it's got a tablet interface, it's got really quite a unique setup, bespoke, with lots of different components. So they had a unique requirement. They came to us and said, are you in a position to help us in terms of monitoring this? So obviously they don't roll out any branches. They've got this digital kiosk. And we said, sure, well, let's find a partner. It was around that time that, I think it was Louis Pinar from Cloud says, listen, don't you want to come spend an afternoon with me? And we went to IoT.next. They're a South African startup, or been around for a while, a couple of years, based in Centurion. And they said, well, let's demo a platform to you. And they demoed some pretty interesting capabilities. So they've done some great stuff at Transnet. They're doing some very interesting stuff at Vodacom as well. But for us, what was interesting is a platform that's extensible, that we thought really sort of tick most of the boxes in terms of monitoring this kiosk. Now, being a bespoke kiosk, it's got an Android tablet, it's got a power management system there, which is bespoke, it's Raspberry Pi based, and lots of different peripherals. So it sort of involved a slightly different approach in terms of getting, some brainiacs good with a keyboard and developing a custom solution to go and develop a capability to extract kiosk health metrics. Because up until this point, they were blind. They had some MDM capability, so they were able to remote desktop, push down software and interrogate a kiosk on a per kiosk basis. From an operations perspective, it's a little bit inefficient. They actually needed really to be focusing on exceptions rather than waiting for somebody in a branch in Kuruman to actually phone through, typically a store manager from a Pick n Pay or kiosk perspective, and say, listen, your kiosk is down, there's nobody transacting there. So it was important for us to try and give them insights from a real-time monitoring perspective, how the kiosks are functioning. The point is to have two channels. One is about kiosk health metrics, and really not to intervene or to take control of the actual banking side of that. So that is taking documents as well as biometrics that are processed by their application and the kiosk, sending that up to the core banking platform, which is in the cloud. Another critical component is being able to deploy remotely, and importantly, being able to deploy remotely globally. So our initial scope is going to be 600 kiosks in South Africa, but potentially a global deployment across the globe. The next is 8,000 in Indonesia, as well as banks and deployments inside New Zealand and Australia. So from our outcomes and benefits, health metrics is fine. What they've also done as part of their development and management of the kiosk is actually have the ability to have inbound communication. So where they historically might have needed to have a truck roll, get somebody to go out to the physical kiosk and go and reboot or replug or reseat things, what they developed is a pretty ingenious way of cycling peripherals. So when a peripheral like a front-facing camera or the document scanner or the biometric reader, the easiest way, as we've seen with Windows, is to cycle it, is to do a restart. So they developed a bespoke Raspberry Pi power distribution board with a number of different boards for power, so 5 volt and 12 volts, and they developed a mechanism whereby they can push down configurations to cycle those. So our solution needed to have bidirectional communication. So one is get the metrics out, and when there is a peripheral that's not responding, issue an instruction to go and cycle that. And if that remediation doesn't fail, then it actually makes sense to either initiate a remote session to go into the tablet or the Raspberry Pi and see what's going on, or the last resort is have a truck roll. So the platform, our vendor that we're signing up with is IoT.next. For visualization, they're using Power BI. That's just because it's there, it's part of the Azure platform. From a production perspective, we envisage that landscape might change, certainly from a visualization perspective. And they're, from an operations perspective, a case management, they use Pega CRM. So we're in the process now of part of the POC is to also do the integration from an IoT.next platform, we call the centralized operations console commander, of integrating that into Pega CRM via case management exchange. So this is just a very high-level slide of the IoT.next solution. So from an IoT perspective, what we observe in the world is a wide variety of technology and operational technology that's on the ground that essentially becomes not cost justifiable to replace. So to extract value and to wrap that with an IoT solution, you need to retrofit. So what IoT.next has got, they've got what they call the Raptor Gateway, which is either a hardware appliance that you install and you wire into your kit, your operation technology, or they actually got a software version of the Raptor Gateway as well. They don't actually collect data at source and transform it and normalize it at source, and then send the metrics up to the commander to the commander layer. So there we talk about data abstraction. So transforming it from sort of data which is coming across the wire, it might be CAN bus, might be Modbus, into a normalized data format that the commander infrastructure can interpret, can put visualization around, can put rules and workflow around that. And obviously on the right-hand side is the enterprise layer, the ability to integrate with what is existing from an enterprise perspective. Couple slides. This is some screenshots taken from the solution as rolled out at for Time Digital. So we're currently in PC phase. We did a demo to the business last week. They were overwhelmed. They were blown away. They're almost at the point of signing off on the POC. We can move to production. Obviously, this is just one kiosk which is deployed in Centurion. Our next phase is to roll out to 5. This is really just to blueprint and harden our deployment methodology. Next phase, if we move forward into production, is to deploy to South Africa, which is the state of 600 kiosks rolled out countrywide, and then obviously beyond that is looking at deployments into Indonesia and the rest of the. I'll actually show you a. So that's a picture of the kiosk over there. So really what they wanted at a high level kiosk perspective is sort of a digital twin representation of that's just obviously a diagram representing that, and then the different components. So they needed to roll up to go and say, is the tablet component potentially in error? Are any of the peripherals power management? Are the network connectivity issues? Sort of giving the operations level a view into really what sort of steps they need to take to remediate. One step down, that's just looking at some of the tablet health metrics. So has it got connectivity? What's the battery situation like? Public IP address, temperature, battery health. And then a whole bunch of metrics around the peripherals. So are they able to scan in documents? Are they able to print out cards via the card printer? Are they running out of paper from a thermal printer perspective? It's really a full service kiosk. Really what they do is they walk into a box or a pick and pay store, they bring their documentation, it does all of the FICA documentation, scans it up, does the biometrics. And at the end of the day, if that all passes, they get printed out an ATM card, and they use that to transact at pick and pay point of sales, as well as at Boxer stores. So it's
we actually helped them develop the paperless application.
Yeah,
We did all that work, and that's how we got involved.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of not having a branch, this is really is the branch for Time Digital, the ability to transact where their customers are, not necessarily have them come to take a taxi halfway across town or halfway across the province to go and open up a bank account. Try to get the banking into their hands and use the stores that are that they use to either box or pick and pay to transact. Power management, this is a critical component. So there we're just showing that each of the peripherals is hardwired into a specific board on their power distribution unit, having the ability to reset it, which is again that hard reset like you would do on your phone or your laptop when it's misbehaving. And then obviously the ability from an operations perspective, when they see there's alarms generated, the ability to go and have a look at what the fault was, take remediation and look at a history of that. And that's version 2 of the kiosk overview dashboard, just showing some additional visualization capability. And next phase, rollout for the integration for Pega CRM. And battle-harden that deployment plan so that they, again, don't have to worry about having a truck roll to go and install the monitoring technology on each kiosk, which, as you can imagine, in South Africa would be hard. In Indonesia, where we're looking at 8,000 kiosks, it's just not feasible at all. And that's it.
So you mentioned two channels in the kiosk. The one would, I assume, be the banking confidential
Correct.
information, and the others is the health monitoring of the physical machine.
Correct.
Now, this is saying to Bernard, this thing FICAs you, so why can't we have 1,000 of those around everywhere to FICA, to your cell phone, because to go and take out a new cell phone contract takes you 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just to see someone to look at your documents.
So I mean,
I'm seeing opportunities.
So
for
there's
this
many
thing.
opportunities that goes around the cost of the kiosk.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
I think it's pay for it.
So
Yeah.
so that's basically where the snag sit. I know what the kiosk costs, but and we have not an agreement, but we have in principle agreement with them. If we have a client, and we thought about MTN or one of those to actually take the kiosk and take it to the dealers, and you can pick up because this is what it's made for. So there is many opportunities, but
it's
again,
figuring out how to.
So what they're also thinking is they've got varying models of the kiosk, and obviously that creates complexity in terms of how you monitor, because they'll have different models of peripherals, potentially different shape, form sizes, things like that. So we really have to be forward thinking about how we gather the metrics from these kiosks. But they're also coming out with handheld self-service kiosks, so big enough that you can strap it onto your arm, walk through a mall and actually do bank origination in a mall, wherever that may be. So they're quite an innovative, forward-thinking bank with not any branch anywhere. It's all the branch will be either in kiosk.
For F&B. So F&B does it that way. So they go to taxi ranks, they have a device, and they actually take all the documents at the taxi rank, take it, issue the guy with a card, and the card gets activated from the back end side afterwards if the guy's application is
okay, so there's a little time delay, but at least it's
but
convenient.
then he will get an SMS to say your card is activated, you can start using it.
So an interesting point. You spoke about the sort of dilemma that we might be faced in terms of tracking human beings. What they've done for Transnet Ports Authority, which is quite interesting, is with these straddle carriers, Transnet primary job is managing the harbour, but importantly taking containers off ships. And that's more problematic than you'd believe. So this is why we see a whole bunch of ships sitting out in the harbour, because they can't offload them quickly enough. And so what they've done is they've done very, very simple IoT type stuff. So they put a carbon monoxide sensor inside the cabin with that's feeding metrics, because in the past what would happen is these guys open the window, they stick their head out, breathe in a whole bunch of carbon monoxide fumes, pass out inside the cabin, or potentially drop a container on a human being, which is a bit of an issue. But then they also put GPS sensors on them. So now we can see where all the straddle carriers are moving to. They also put GPS sensors on the, what they call them, bowers, which is to refuel the straddle carriers. So now instead of waiting for it, the bower to be empty, they know that it's going to be empty at 3 o'clock on a given afternoon. Go and refill it before you have loss of work. So they actually created a human resource management solution using IoT. They don't track any human beings, but they track all the tools and technology that did right. So there's no opt-out required. They just have to work to rules.
Those houses have like 2 tanks, and then the guys will drive until it's all both is empty. And then they will drive to where they refill, and then drive back, instead of getting the refill guy to them, fill them while they're working. That's actually how it should be.
Yeah, so lots of different applications.
Thank you very much.
Excellent, thanks.
Yes.
Actually, we had another
warrant.
harbour solution today. Guys from Eamon.
Yeah.
They do ship tracking.
From whom?
Eamon. The financial services guy.
But only 8% of the cargo gets scanned, and only 5% of that goes to
thingy on the
customs.
cargo,
there's
on the
around 5%.
They do
container.
ship tracking.
Yeah.
Where the ships are.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
Yes, thanks.